What happened to the children born to those who danced between heaven and earth? It is said that in the days before the great deluge, when mankind had lost its way and walked only in shadows, a peculiar union occurred, a forbidden one. The Watchers, celestial beings who once guarded the heavenly gates, were drawn to the beauty of the daughters of men. In their rebellion, they took these mortal women as wives, revealing to them knowledge not meant for the earthbound. From these unions came the Nephilim, beings of enormous strength and unyielding pride. Yet the story of their mothers, the daughters of the Forgotten Gate, was lost beneath the floodwaters of Noah's time. What became of them? This question has haunted ancient scribes and mystics alike, for the women were no ordinary humans after their communion with divine secrets. It is believed that the women received strange gifts, gifts that came at a great cost. They were shown the names of fire and the songs of the earth, sacred vibrations that could command the elements and heal wounds. But as with all power, corruption followed. The very knowledge that elevated them would lead to their undoing. When the flood swept the earth clean, only a handful of these women survived, some carried by forces beyond understanding, others by fleeing to realms hidden from mortal eyes. Legends say they went deep into the caverns of the earth, places no human could withstand, and there they lingered, whispering forgotten songs to the stone walls. The surviving daughters were forever changed. Their voices held an unnatural allure, so sweet, so mournful that none could resist them. It was said their melodies could call the wind or still a storm. Sailors claimed that during quiet nights, a voice would drift across the sea, soft and bewitching. Ships veered off course, drawn by the promise of an unseen beauty, only to find themselves wrecked upon hidden rocks. Unlike the Greek sirens who later emerged in myth, these women were not bound to the sea. Instead, they walked the earth cloaked in illusion, living among mortals but never aging, never dying. To those who looked too closely, their eyes revealed a terrible truth. Depthless wells of sorrow, where the heavens had once reflected but were now empty. And so they became wanderers, known in whispers as the mothers of the echo. Their descendants, though few, inherited their gifts. Some were healers, others prophets, but many became feared as witches who spoke words that could bind or release destinies. The few texts that survived their time spoke of one such woman, Mara of the Hollow Vale. She was said to dwell in the shadow of the mountains, where strange lights danced at twilight and birds refused to sing. Her voice could pierce through dreams, calling wayward men into the forests where they vanished without a trace. Some claimed Mara was gathering the daughters of her kind, those scattered by the flood, to prepare for the return of the Watchers. Others feared she was seeking a key, an ancient relic that would open the Forgotten Gate once again. But the truth? That remains hidden in the scrolls of time. In villages near the Vale, old women warn travelers to cover their ears if a soft hum carries on the wind, for it is said Mara's call grows stronger with every passing season. A call that will reunite the daughters and fulfill a prophecy older than the mountains themselves. And so the question remains, what awaits the world when the daughters of the Forgotten Gate return?
Sirens first appeared in ancient Greek mythology as mysterious and dangerous creatures. Originally, they were not depicted as beautiful women with fishtails, as many people imagine today. Instead, the early Greeks described sirens as having the heads and torsos of women, but the wings and lower bodies of birds. The most famous mention of sirens comes from Homer's Odyssey. In the story, Odysseus and his crew must sail past the sirens. Odysseus, curious to hear their song, but aware of the danger, orders his men to plug their ears with beeswax while he is tied to the mast of the ship. As the ship passes, the sirens sing of hidden secrets and pleasures, but Odysseus' precautions save him and his crew from destruction. This early version of sirens symbolized the irresistible temptation that leads to ruin. Over time, sirens began to change in appearance and meaning. As myths spread into medieval Europe, sirens transformed into creatures that looked more like mermaids, half woman and half fish. This change was partly due to the influence of seafaring cultures that told tales of mysterious creatures living beneath the waves. These new depictions of sirens or mermaids were still connected to danger and temptation, but their stories often included themes of beauty, sadness, and longing. For example, sailors would speak of mermaids seen at sea who sang mournful songs or wept for their loneliness. In some cases, mermaids were thought to lure men into the water to join them, often leading to the sailors drowning. The image of mermaids grew softer and more romantic during the Renaissance period. Artists began to paint them as beautiful and graceful figures, often holding mirrors or combing their long hair while sitting on rocks by the sea. Yet even in these depictions, mermaids retained their mysterious and otherworldly nature, continuing to symbolize a mix of beauty, danger, and the unknown. In many cultures, mermaids were not only seen as dangerous, but also as magical beings with powers over the sea. In Slavic folklore, for example, there were stories of water spirits called rusalki, who were believed to be the souls of women who had drowned. These spirits were both vengeful and sad, appearing at night to lure men into the water. In African mythology, mermaid-like figures also appear, such as Mami Wata, a powerful and often feared water spirit. Mami Wata is sometimes seen as a force of both blessing and destruction, depending on how she is treated by humans. As Christianity spread throughout Europe, sirens and mermaids took on a new meaning. Early Christian leaders used the image of the siren to symbolize temptation and sin. Writers and preachers described them as creatures who embodied worldly pleasures, luring people away from God. Instead of literal beings, sirens became symbols of spiritual danger, much like how Eve's temptation in the Garden of Eden led to humanity's fall. The siren's song, once described as magical and beautiful, was now portrayed as deceitful and deadly, drawing people into sin and away from righteousness. By the time mermaids appeared in fairy tales and modern literature, their role had changed again. In Hans Christian Andersen's story, The Little Mermaid, written in the 19th century, the mermaid is no longer a dangerous creature, but a symbol of love, sacrifice, and longing. The story tells of a mermaid who gives up her voice and life under the sea for the chance to win the love of a human prince. Unlike earlier myths, the mermaid here is portrayed as a tragic and innocent figure, caught between two worlds. Today, sirens and mermaids continue to captivate people's imaginations. In popular culture, mermaids are often seen as beautiful and magical beings, while sirens still retain a darker reputation as dangerous seductresses. Both creatures share a long history of representing temptation, mystery, and the power of the sea. Whether seen as dangerous or benevolent, their stories remind us of the beauty and danger that can come from pursuing the unknown. From the detailed exploration of ancient texts and legends, it becomes evident that the siren mythology, though captivating, diverges significantly from the biblical narrative of the wives of fallen angels. Genesis 6 verse 1-4 provides a clear account of how the sons of God, believed to be fallen angels, took human women as wives, leading to the birth of powerful offspring known as the Nephilim, giants of renown. However, the idea that these women transformed into sirens seems to be an allegorical or cultural addition to biblical stories, rather than a historically grounded fact. The timeline also creates a significant discrepancy. As noted, Greek siren mythology predates Christianity and was cemented around 300 BC in Greek literature. Sirens were originally described as bird women who lured sailors to their doom with enchanting songs. In early Christianity, the sirens were adopted as symbols of worldly temptations and pleasure, often depicted as women with alluring voices that distract and destroy. Figures like Clement of Alexandria and Ambrose use sirens metaphorically to warn against indulgence in sin. In the Book of Enoch, these women were deeply corrupted by the forbidden knowledge revealed by their angelic husbands. While they birthed a generation of giants, their transformation into sirens is not scripturally supported. The confusion between the wives of fallen angels and sirens may have arisen from a blending of stories over time. The legends of sirens remain an intriguing part of mythological and literary history. They are not directly tied to the biblical story of the wives of fallen angels. The overlap between these narratives likely stems from cultural and allegorical reinterpretations rather than historical connections. The story of the wives of fallen angels remains grounded in the book of Genesis and apocryphal texts like the book of Enoch, whereas sirens belong firmly to Greek and later European mythologies.